Well, Monday Night Football definitely was a much different game than I expected. A 41-32 shootout. I mean, Denver gave up 497 passing yards to Jameis Winston. The Browns also rushed for 77. I mean, we're talking about them going for nearly 600 yards from the line of scrimmage, but when it mattered, the Broncos were there to make plays. They had two pick sixes. Cody Barton almost took a third in on the final drive of the game for the Browns. And overall, Bo Nix, 294 yards, 18 to 35. The efficiency wasn't there. It was just a strange game plan, if I'm being honest with you. It seemed like Nix was more focused. He was fixated on the deep shots versus just taking what was underneath, what was wide open. It's a strange game that I'll definitely have to go back and look at. But overall, Nix had that huge touchdown pass, of course, to one of many young receivers in Marvin Mims Jr., 93 yards. That was on a third and long, too. The speed on this Denver team is no joke. I think they're going to be very, very dangerous come playoff time, which we're about to get into in a second. But Cortland Sutton, 6 for 102, nothing new. The past month plus, he's just been a walking 100-point player, 100-yard player, 100-point Wilt Chamberlain. But Sutton, he just made big catches. Of course, like I said, there's a lot of young receivers on this Denver receiver core. So for him to lead it has been huge. He's been the number one target all season for Knicks. Troy Franklin had a couple of catches. Lucas Kroll had a very nice two-handed catch where it was thrown a little bit behind him. He was able to reach up and go up and get it. And then outside of that, Vile had a catch for 16 yards, also forced a key pass interference in this game. Javonte Williams remains quiet. To this point, I mean, I think it's fair to say that he is completely erased out of this backfield. Jaleel McLaughlin was, without question, the best player on the running backs tonight. He goes 14 of 84, had a long of 18, good efficiency. Audric Estime, the rookie, 3 for 12. Didn't get too much run production. It wasn't bad, wasn't great. Really, the yards just came from Bo Nix connecting on those deep shots, and then also the defense scored 14 points. It's 12 points and then two extra points, of course, by Lutz. But this game, the reason why Denver was able to win it was just simply the pressure that they got on Winston. They forced him to throw 58 times. So, of course, if you throw 58 times, you're going to get a lot of yards. Jerry Jeudy had an NFL record, 235 yards receiving against his former team with a touchdown. You could see the respect between him and Sean Payton at the end of this one. Elijah Moore, 8 for 111. It just consistently, the Browns were moving the ball down the field. They were scoring, but the reason why they lost was just because Denver, although they gave up a lot of yards, they lead the league in sacks. In terms of yards per play, they lead the league. And interceptions, well, they made 3 of them, and 2 of them came for pick sixes. One of them, of course, nearly came for one by Cody Barton, but he was chased down by Jerry Jeudy. And if I'm being completely honest, there's not very many receivers that would have chased down Barton. The reason Jeudy did it was because this is his former team, and he was trying to send a message, so he was able to hustle. And it could have been 3. I mean, I don't know the last time there was 3 pick sixes in a game, but it probably has been a long time. It's pretty crazy to think about. Although Denver, there's a lot that they're going to look back on and be frustrated with. Of course, their only run game was from McLaughlin. Outside of that, there was no juice. Bo Nix, 18 of 35 is not the efficiency we've been accustomed to him of late. 294 yards of love, the 2 interceptions you don't like, but again, that was just throwing the ball deep. Well, the first one, Myles Garrett went off of the edge, and Nix got rid of it quickly, and then it ended up being deflected by Ward and intercepted. The second one, he just took a shot on Denzel Ward down the field, and it got intercepted. So it just things like that can be easily cleaned up. That's why I'm not too worried about the Broncos, because I don't think they played even close to their best football. If I'm being honest, I don't think the Broncos played very well at all in this game. I thought they'd handle the Browns very, very convincingly. This game was down to the wire, but still, a win's a win. Definitely happy you get it. You go into the bye, you clean it up, and then you be better against the Colts. And if the Broncos beat the Colts off of their bye, that essentially, not essentially, that does knock the Colts out of playoff contention. Actually, technically, that's not true because they can still win their division, but the Broncos will be a lock to make the playoffs because they'll be 9-5, and the Colts at that point can only finish 9-8. They'd have the tiebreaker. So if Denver wins against the Colts, which they'll be the favorites to do so, they're making the playoffs. You guys remember, like, Las Vegas had them at a 5.5 win total coming into the season, and they surpassed that weeks ago. To be 8-5 is the best case scenario because you got a young quarterback that you believe in Bo Nix. Year 2 of Sean Payton. The Broncos eventually are going to clear a lot of money. They're paying Russell Wilson the most amount of money in terms of dead cap in the history of the NFL. It's like I think it's like 100 million or something crazy like that. And Russ is balling in Pittsburgh right now, but both sides are happy. The Broncos got their quarterback of the future. Without question, the reason why they're 8-5 is because of Bo Nix having him over Russ. And for the Steelers, they got Russ in a cheap 1 year deal, and he fits that scheme well. So both sides are definitely happy with it. I'm certainly happy with it. Bo Nix has been balling, and in this game, he made key throws, and that's what Bo Nix does. It might not have been the best game of his young career, but when it mattered, he made the throws. He was able to get his team into a position to score. And even though he did have those 2 picks late in this game, he didn't turn it over, because that's what it would have come down to. Is if Bo Nix had turned the ball over 3 times, like Winston did, versus 2 for him, then the Broncos probably lose this game. And Winston forcing the ball, being aggressive, he threw for a lot of yards, a lot of touchdowns, which he's done his whole career. But it's just the silly plays is the reason why Winston hasn't been a long-term quarterback in this league. I mean, it's so simple too. One of the pick sixes, one of the pick sixes was to Nick Benito, who has double-digit sacks and now a pick six. So he's having a unbelievable all-pro type of season. But one of them was just him trying to throw inside. Well, the third pick was him trying to throw inside, but then also you go back to his second pick, he was trying to throw outside. And even though Winston has a big arm, you can't make that play in that situation. You're just throwing up a lollipop. It's similar to the Kirk Cousins pick six that we saw on Sunday. So I mean, I'll take it though. For a Denver Broncos fan, obviously covering the team over on Daily Broncos. My birthday's in an hour and 15 minutes, so this came a little bit early, but still a big time win. Baltimore's 8-5. Denver's 8-5. I mean, who would have thought to this point in the season that these two teams would have the same record? And the Broncos do play the Chargers in 3 weeks. So that will set them up for a chance to pass the Chargers. And if they can get up to the 5th seed, I mean, we're talking about playing against Houston or Indianapolis in the first round. And the Broncos would love both of those matchups too. It's similar to the Chiefs. If you can get after the quarterback and win up front, well, if you can do that against anyone in the NFL, you're going to be successful, but especially the Texans and especially the Chiefs. Those are the two teams who I think are very vulnerable right now in the AFC playoff picture. The Broncos should have beaten the Chiefs. They had a field goal blocked, a crazy play. And then the Texans, they barely beat the Jags, who were with Mac Jones for over half of that game. I mean, that came down to literally Joe Mixon on a 3rd and 4 had to pick up a 4th down, or if he didn't pick that up, then the Jags would have had a chance to get the ball back to win the game. And the Texans are hit with injuries, don't get me wrong. But Denver, I mean, you have to look at the teams that are in this conference right now. The Chargers, they believe they can beat. Texans, Steelers, they should have beaten them, but Bo Nix made a really rookie mistake throwing a ball to the back of the end zone, which was a pick down on the goal line. Bills and I think the Bills and the Ravens are the two teams Denver wouldn't want in the playoffs, but I think anyone outside of that they can beat, which is remarkable considering that this is year 2 of Sean Payton, year 1 of Bo Nix. They were never supposed to be this good, but the fact that they didn't bring their best football tonight and they still found a way to win, there's still a lot to take away. They ran it over 100 yards. They threw it for nearly 300. They forced 2 defensive touchdowns, and when the game mattered, they made plays. They defended home field, and they got a lot of pressure as well. So yeah, that's really it. I will say, I'm not going to pick on Levi Wallace. I could, but Levi Wallace got absolutely cooked, and Vance Joseph ended up going with one of his rookie defensive backs who gave up a late pass interference, which put the ball inside of the 5-yard line, but Winston ended up throwing a pick regardless. And talking about Chris Abrams' drain, but yeah, definitely got to go back and look at it and do a little bit more in-depth breakdown. But this is just my overall thoughts right after it happened.